That's Life. I'm Marcia Boyles, and as always, I'd like to introduce my partner, my co-host, co-producer, Kathleen.
Hi.
Kathleen, just to remind our viewers, you are the social work manager.
I am indeed.
All right. Well, today we have 3 interesting vignettes. I don't know that we need to say too much about them. What would you like to say?
Well, I think that all 3 of these vignettes are impromptu. They're all people just dropping in to see their social worker, which I like to say is perfectly appropriate for people to do. They don't always have to make an appointment. Sometimes we like it because we know we can carve out the time that people need, but also when people drop in, I think that's fine.
These are kind of spontaneous.
They're all spontaneous.
Issues.
Yeah, they just we're like, oh, we need to talk to our social worker.
Right, right.
So, and all of our people are going to be some of our regulars. So
They are. We're starting out with Homer, who is returning after a fairly long hiatus. We're then going to our favorite couple, which is Pansy and Morris, and we're ending up with Cecilia. So yes, these are our regulars.
yeah.
So with that, we'll stop and roll the vignettes.
Hi, Kathleen. Hi. Sorry to drop in on you like this. I used to do this rather routinely with Ann Talley when Ann was my social worker, you remember the call? And so I don't have any particular problems. Life is good. Winnie died a year ago this past August. I like to laugh. I laugh a lot, but there's sadness in my life. And on occasions, I would go over to Ann's office and press my nose against the window pane. She would, yeah, she had to do something about me. She'd let me in, and gosh, often we'd spend the better part of an hour just talking about all kinds of things. And so I miss her. She, to me, she became like a third daughter, the daughter, who works on the campus here. Right. So I'll be doing this probably. Okay, you're going to get it now. Occasionally, I'm going to
It's
stop.
okay. I'm up to it. But it's hard. It's hard, I know, when you develop a relationship with one of the social workers.
Yeah, I miss her.
Yeah, of course you do.
Sure.
Yeah, she was a good listener for sure.
Yeah. And as I say, we talk about all kinds of things. I learned that there are some ghosts in my closet that I never knew were there until I started talking with Ann. For example, I was telling her once, I'm not sure how we got into it. I was telling her once about the girl I met when I went off to college. And we were really very good friends. If I'd not asked Winnie to marry me, I probably would have asked Jeannie. I have no particular reason to think that she would have accepted, but I would have asked. On Thanksgiving Day, after Winnie and I both graduated from college, she drove to the wedding. It was a 3-hour drive probably. Never saw her again. And so I've wondered, for some time I've wondered if maybe I had hurt her anyway. Probably not, but I've wondered. And so after one of my conversations with Ian, I went home, got on the internet, and I looked up Eaton Dairy Farm in Allegheny, New York, and I found Jeannie's death notice. She died in September 2002 after a long illness, so I'll never know. Yeah. And I've got other issues like that, that just tend to plague me.
Yeah, it's weird how life does that to you. Sometimes things just bubble up after having been buried for a long time. Yeah. And you don't have a lot of control over that sometimes.
Yeah, but if I let it, it'll eat me alive. I've always liked people, but in earlier years, I just didn't have time for anybody. It was family, work, my maker. Those are 3 good priorities. I didn't have them arranged quite right, did I? And I didn't have time. Everything else was a distraction. And now, now I'm here. Now I'm a completely different human being. I used to like to think I was a tough guy. I found out that was not the case when I was caregiving for Winnie, and I've turned into a marshmallow. It's basically what I am now. I'm a marshmallow.
You're just still discovering yourself.
Yeah. I've learned to make small talk, for one thing. Didn't used to do that. So in many ways, I'm just completely different.
Yeah.
I'm a different human being.
But you're still worrying. I think that's the consistency, is you
Yeah.
still worry a little
Yeah.
bit about
Yeah.
the impact that you're having on people, and whether it's for good or...
Yeah, and I have some, excuse me, I have some regrets. Pardon me. I've worried that I didn't do as good a job as I should have. Tried to be a tough guy in caregiving for Winnie, as I say. Found out that I wasn't, and kind of regret that. I should have done better. I should have been able to do better than I did. But it's all behind. It's all in the past.
Yeah, you have to let go of it a little bit, I think.
Try to, yeah.
Try to, a little bit at a time.
Yeah.
But I do sense that talking things through and saying things out loud, that's helpful for you. So I understand that you're losing Anne left you a little at without a mooring, I think. So it's good that you're coming back to being able to reach out, and if it's you and I that are going to be doing this for a while, I think that's a good thing, because you do find out about yourself sometimes just in that discovery process.
I may be thinking too much. You suppose?
Yeah, I think you might be, but that's okay. That's how you do it. Everybody does it in a different way.
Over our married years, it would routinely remind me something would happen, and I thought she was terribly cynical. And she would say to me, Homer, you are so naive. And it turned out that she had a good instinct for these things. She was right more often than I. I'm still naive, apparently. 82-year-old. I'm glad that I'm naive. Maybe.
Yeah, what does that mean to you?
It suggests to me the possibility that after 82 years, there may be some trace of the little boy left of me, maybe.
I agree with that. Next time you're thinking you're right near stepping in something, give me a call, and we'll see if we can walk around it instead of through it.
I said, well, see, I'm a farm kid, so stepping in things is not...
That's kind of normal, right?
That's right, yes.
Yeah, okay, but it's good talking to you for sure.
Well, thanks.
And definitely, when I talk to Anne, I'll let her know that you're thinking about her. I know that she had a strong connection to you as well, so.
Yeah, it was nice.
Yeah, that's good. So, okay, so we'll talk again.
Okay, thanks.
All right, sounds good.
Oh, Carolyn, I am so glad we found you. You won't believe it. I have lived here for 15 years, and I just got lost trying to take Morris to where the Viva's office was.
Oh, well, I know what the problem was then.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's not there anymore, right?
I couldn't find it, and I thought, how could you not find it?
Oh, no, it's not there. The Viva program shut down about 6 months or so ago, so that's the problem.
Well, I am really disappointed because I feel like Morris would benefit from an assessment on the driving issue that the Viva used to do.
Oh.
Because I've gotten would you believe that the other day we were driving, came to a stop sign at an intersection, and we needed to turn left. Well, it was a street that had a median strip down it, and but he started to turn left into the first thing against traffic coming that way. I screamed so loud, I bet you heard me at Greensboro.
Scared you, huh?
It scared me, and I thought, this boy needs an assessment.
Uh-oh.
Well, Pansy, I know you're uncomfortable with my driving. And even though I've been driving since I was 16, I know that given my age now, I need to be more careful.
Right.
I've made lots of adjustments. I leave an extra 2 car lengths between me and the car in front. I never go over the speed limit. I just am careful. The only thing I cannot control is my reflex time.
Yeah.
So I really try to be careful, but I don't want to give up driving yet because
Well,
it's going to be something that I will find very hard to do.
I understand that, but we are discussing going someplace which will involve driving quite a little distance. And
And that really worries you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, yeah, you're talking about that football game that my grandson is
yes,
playing in.
that's the one.
Well, but if I don't drive, how are we going to get there? It's on a Saturday in the afternoon.
Well, they run taxi cabs on Saturdays, don't they?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, a cab would be a good idea if you decided not to drive, for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure we could get one that would come and get us at Green Spring on Saturday afternoon.
Yep. Yep.
What do you think?
But cabs are kind of hard to find. We could, if I drive, we'll just, when we're ready to leave, we'll get in the car and come home.
How does all that work? I don't,
Well, amazingly enough, it works itself out pretty well. Just have to plan a little bit. I mean, it's definitely something that you can do.
yeah.
It's manageable. I don't know the driving, obviously that's an emotional investment as well from your standpoint. It's not just a matter of convenience, but Pansy's feeling a little freaked out after that last near miss. So I think,
Well, I really do understand. When I'm going someplace with any of my sons, I'll say, well, let me pick you up and go. And they always say, oh, no, I'll drive.
yeah,
So maybe there's
something going
maybe there's
on.
something going on that I'm really not willing to accept yet.
Yeah.
Are there other assessments besides Viva?
Well, I mean, certainly the Viva was a really nice comprehensive
Yes.
one for sure, and we do miss that. Some of the things that we can look at is if you could go to outpatient occupational therapy, they can check to see how well you can kind of turn to get your blind spots and how well you have, what strength you have in your hands for gripping the steering wheel, those kinds of things. So there's little things that they can look at. You could go to the DMV and do an on-road assessment like you do. I don't know when the last time was that you did one, maybe when you first got your license, which would have been a while ago. But there are things that you can do, but I think that what I am worried about, or what I think about the most, is exactly what you said, and that is that the physical parts aside, and vision is another one that we know is compromised as people get older. It's just part of the normal aging process. It really is what you said about your how quickly you can process information.
Yeah.
And that's really, especially in this area where the traffic is so thick and there's so many crazy drivers, being able to react quickly is really what is going to keep you from getting in accidents. And the inability or the slowing down of that ability to react, which again is normal aging, is what's going to put you at risk when you're driving as well. And not only you, but other people out on the road too, and your passengers. So I mean, this is a hard one. I think that giving up driving for our residents is one of the hardest situations that you run into.
I guess one of the things I ought to do is to sit down with my sons and have a little family confab. And normally I've been kidding about the fact that they won't drive with me, but
Right.
maybe I ought to find out
I think so.
whether they have valid concerns.
Yeah, I think That's great. That's really a reasonable way to approach it. And I mean, you already kind of have an inkling. I know the fact that you've already made adjustments tells me that you know that you're not the driver that you were 20 years ago.
No question about it.
Yeah.
It's just that it's such an important thing in life for me. I just don't know when to give up, but I do know I don't want to give up driving because I've had a serious accident.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
I'll tell you what, Morris, let's don't give up driving completely, but for the ball game, let's take a cab. And I just found out that you can pay the cab driver with a credit card, and I got one.
She is free with that credit card, isn't
She
she?
is indeed.
You got yourself a good date. Okay, well that's all right. So you got that taken care of. And what I would say too is that's a great next step is to just get some feedback from your family about what they're noticing.
Yeah.
And then maybe, think about that and come back and talk to me again. Let me know who won the football game. She's got her flashy card case, so you guys are good to go. But I'm glad you settled that. Compromise is good for relationships, right?
It is.
All
It
right.
is.
All right. Have fun. Hi, Cecilia. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing fine. I seem to always have a little something on my mind that I need to talk to you about, and I hope it isn't, you're not too busy today.
Of course not.
But my daughter, the one who is married and who has had a drug problem and it seems to be doing just fine, she has started asking me for money again. And I don't know exactly why. The first time, it's not large sums of money, but the first time she kind of intimated she was having car trouble. So I gave her some money. And then recently she's come again for some more. And this time it was a dental problem. And I don't know whether she's slipping back into addiction or what to do. And I can't keep giving her money. I know that.
Right, right. This is something that she did the last time she was,
Yes, it was.
using drugs.
Yeah, and it could, I guess, go either way. I just really don't know what the situation is.
Right, right. Well, I think it would be good, hopefully, if you could maybe ask her. Was she ever straightforward with you in terms of her drug use before?
No, not really.
Not really?
Well, she went into rehab, and that's pretty much
And that was when you knew for sure.
That's pretty much a conclusion reached there.
Yeah, yeah. But it would be great if you could even just ask her how she's doing, and just sort of get everything out on the table, really.
As far as the addiction, just flat out ask her if she is slipping back.
Yeah. Well, drug addiction is really a chronic illness. I think that it's pretty assumed that there's not a cure to drug addiction, but that if people continue to keep their treatment program going, that they're going to be able to manage the addiction. And with everything that's been going on with her lately, she's been going through a lot of changes, I know.
Yes, she has.
And a lot of them have been positive, but they could create some stressors as well, which stress a lot of times can trigger an addiction. That it's entirely possible that she needs to really renew her treatment program again.
Well, doesn't she need to keep going, like a 12-step, doesn't she need to keep going continuously?
Well,
or is that not true with drug addiction?
I think a lot of people do use that kind of a treatment program to keep them on track, and it's also really great for peer support. But for everybody's different, and I don't know what, other than actually being in rehab, I don't know what she had for a treatment program. Usually it's a combination of some medications along with some kind of mental health treatment, like a counseling kind of approach.
Well, she was in a rehab place,
Right.
and that's where she met Jane.
Right.
And so I assume Jane is still, I don't know.
Yeah, you don't know, that's true. But you're worried about her, and I feel like you guys have really made some pretty good progress
Oh,
in
we
terms
have.
of your relationship.
Yes.
That you're at a different place now than you were before, where you might just be able to go, hey, I'm worried about you. I'm
Yes,
seeing.
I guess I could just ask her.
Yeah, you're seeing some behaviors that had, been related to her drug use before, and you want to be a help for her. You want to be a support for her. So, just to let her know what you're seeing, and I hope, if that's the case, that she is starting to use again, that you can also then help her see the benefit of getting back into treatment again if she's slipped away from that.
Yes. Well, I think I also have to stop giving her money. I can't keep doing this. I know I can't give her large sums of money because of the resident care agreement that I've signed.
Right.
But these small amounts, I guess, are all right. But I can't keep doing that either. So I think probably checking it out with her and being frank with her.
Absolutely, yeah. And I mean, you're being honest too. You can't keep giving her money, and especially because you have an idea that maybe it's going for
Yes, not
drugs,
so positive.
not for good things.
Yes.
And if you can get her to see that, then that will helpfully maybe help her move forward in terms of whatever else is going on. And like you said, you don't really know. It could be something totally different. But again, your relationship has, I think, gotten to a point now where you can have that honest conversation with her, and that's going to make the relationship stronger in the long run.
Yes. Well, I hate to always feel that accusatory, in my own mind,
Sure.
that this is what she's doing, and maybe she isn't at all.
Right.
So I guess I should find that out
Yeah.
by just being straightforward and asking her.
Yeah, I think so. And it's out of concern. It's out of love. And she'll know that. She'll hear that.
Well,
So
I hope so.
yeah. But I think it's worth the risk
Okay.
to go ahead and ask her, because she needs to hear what her mom's thinking.
Okay. Well, if you think that's a good plan, that's what I'll do.
Yeah. I mean, you guys have been through your ups and downs.
Yes, we have, and it's been pretty solid since then.
Yeah. And I think that it'll continue to be. So I would encourage you to just go ahead and have that conversation with her, and then
And we'll
figure
see
out
where it goes.
Yeah, figure out what the next step is after that. But
Okay.
she'll know that you've got her back, and that you're with her, whatever else is going on. So
Okay. Thank you.
So let me know
I
how
will.
it goes.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, well, welcome back. Those were interesting vignettes. Did you see a theme today, Kathleen?
Well, I don't know. I mean, definitely relationships are always an important part of our conversation, because we're all about how we react and relate to other people. That's part of being human.
Yes, and these were relationships with family members, with each other. Yes, it definitely was about relationships. Well, let's talk a little bit. Begin with Homer, who is our first vignette. Now, again, he hasn't been back for quite a long time, and he was seeing you for the first time.
Right. Yeah, I love that vignette, because we have never talked about what happens when the social worker that you've been seeing for a long time, and maybe through some really, crisis times like
And
Homer.
he certainly has been.
How much of that relationship means to the person, and the social worker too. I will tell you, those kinds of relationships mean a lot professionally to the social worker. So Ann Talley, which is in truth one of our social workers, did leave us recently, and I miss her, of course. But Homer really misses her, and he misses that person that he can come to, and he knows that that's a safe place where he can share his innermost feelings and maybe discover a little bit more about who he is, since he's still thinking about that. And so when he felt the need to have that conversation, he came to me.
Yes.
In lieu of Ann, because Ann wasn't available.
Right.
But I think the lovely part about that is he gets the value of having that relationship in his life, that it helps him know things that he needs to know about who he is and what he wants to do, and discovers again about who he is.
Yes, it certainly has helped him grow. He went through that whole grieving process.
Yeah.
And without Ann's help, I think it would have been much tougher for him.
Yeah. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, so I think that the conversation that I had with him, I mean, I think that just for him, he needed to have that conversation. He had some things going on that he needed to sort out, and I think saying things out loud does help a person think things through, and getting that reaction from another person is important too. So anyhow, it was a good session that we had, I think.
All right. Well, I think you're absolutely right that folks do develop wonderful relationships with the social workers, and many of us had those relations with Ann.
That's
Ann
right.
Telly for real.
That's right, and it is for real too that people leave us. That's another part of life.
Yes.
So those are things that we're talking about in real time, is what it feels like when somebody either moves away or dies.
Yes.
And I think that for Homer, there's that resonance is that he's kind of been abandoned twice now by people. One
First was Winnie.
Winnie when she died, and then Anne when she left, and I think that's poignant for sure.
Does one trigger the thoughts of another? When you lose one, do you remember some of the earlier ones?
Yeah, I think
Is there a relationship there?
I think it's just it triggers memories, maybe lost opportunities.
And he was talking
And
about
that
some of those, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think that does happen sometimes. It's just, I think I've said before that with bereavement, which is when you lose somebody in death, you lose the possibility to ever make things better again. And I think that he was talking about that a little bit, not only with Winnie, but with
Jeannie, I think her name was.
the woman who, during his college days, that he felt maybe he had hurt in some kind of way.
Right.
So yeah, that's how we think. That's those emotional connections, get attached to experiences, and then, like I said, they just come bubbling up to the top. Sometimes we don't really have control over them. But it's good that they're so accessible for Homer, for sure, because he can work them through. For some people, they get buried pretty deep, and it's not so easy.
They don't necessarily bubble up.
They can cause pain, but they don't get to a level where you can kind of take them out and look at them and explore them.
Well, and certainly being able to share them is an important
Absolutely.
aspect of Homer. All right. Well, then we went to our comedians.
So cute. Such a cute couple.
They really are. They're quite a charming couple.
Yeah.
Now, today they had a serious issue, didn't they?
They did.
A little difference of opinion. And Morris is having a bit of a struggle with that giving up driving, which a lot of us understand.
Yeah, he's pretty realistic, actually. He is.
Yeah,
he was very self-aware, which is a treat, because a lot of times it's such an identity crisis. I think maybe a little bit more for men than for women.
I think so too. Yes.
That is your autonomy, your identity.
And your ability to protect your partner or whatever.
Yeah, or
yes.
to take care of them in some kind
Yes.
of way. So he's sort of facing all that, but he was very reasonable.
Yes, he was.
Yeah, and I think that the nice part too is that he didn't want Pansy to worry. He didn't want to cause her duress in any kind of way. That he was that willing to, to not dig into the idea that he was going to drive, but to actually make a compromise, which, from a relationship standpoint, is awesome.
Well, and she was willing to compromise by saying, "All right, we'll do it this time, but we'll deal with the whole issue of driving later, but for this particular trip."
And that was nice, because it kind of took the pressure off of the moment, which was really, really good.
Yeah.
And then, of course, her whipping out her credit card is always good.
Right.
She's quite enjoying that now.
She is. I think it gives her a real feeling of power.
And Morris is just kind of rolling his eyes.
Exactly.
He's rolling with it. He's rolling his eyes and he's rolling with it.
Right.
Yeah.
I think he's a little amused too.
Yeah.
At this point.
So that was good. And it's a serious, and of course it is. It's a serious topic, driving and the changes that people go through as they get older, and how that impacts their ability to safely drive. So good talk.
Yes, and certainly resonates with a lot of folks. So, yeah, we all understand it. Now, we ended up with Cecilia. Now, all of us are reading about the opioid,
yeah.
heroin and opioid crisis right now.
Right.
Gosh, talk a little bit about addiction and the fact that one never knows with addictions whether they're going to pop up again or just what.
Well, as I was saying, it really is a chronic illness.
I don't think I'd ever heard that phrase used with, okay.
Well, I think-
no, we don't think of it that way.
No, and I think probably most importantly, it has to be said that it's not a moral failing. It's not, it's not a failure of willpower. That when you start taking an addictive substance, that your body actually changes in response to it. Your brain actually changes, and the pleasure centers that are in your brain are affected by that substance. So, and they change for good. They don't just change while you're taking it. So
It's a permanent change.
It's a permanent change.
All right, so that the need is always going to be there.
Yeah, I mean,
Need, quote unquote.
yeah, that it's always there, and that's why, though it's not considered, because it's chronic, it's not considered something that you can cure. It's the idea that you manage that through proper treatment, which is, again, either probably a combination of medication and some kind of counseling therapy. The 12-step programs, all of that come into play. Different approaches work for different people, but I think part of it is the awareness that it's not ever going to not be a problem. I might have had too many double negatives in there, but it's always going to be a problem that you can't ignore. I know sometimes people stop taking a blood pressure medication because they go, well, my blood pressure's fine now, so I don't need this medication anymore. Well, no, it's because you're taking the medication that your blood pressure's all right. And I think that happens, that people get lulled into thinking that it's not a problem anymore. I don't have to stick with my program. I'm okay now. And then as a result, you get a relapse. And relapse with addiction is really just, part of it. You can anticipate relapses pretty much with any kind of substance abuse.
I think most of us think of drug addiction as, okay, you go to rehab and you get it fixed.
Yep, you're cured.
Get it cured.
Yeah.
And that's the end of it. And really what you're saying, and this is what I have certainly heard from friends that have children who are into drugs or have been into drugs, that it isn't cured.
Yeah, yeah.
And of course we worry, so I think we worry especially now too with this overdose situation.
Oh yeah.
That has
Well, I
become
mean,
so
people
prevalent.
are dying, so I mean
Yes.
that's definitely part of it, and you do read that in the paper, and it's all people. It's not like one cross section
Yes.
of
One age. It's
a
all
demographic. Yeah, all
Yes.
socioeconomic, all age, everything. So it's like nobody's immune to it, and I think that is scary for parents or for people who have family that are vulnerable to that in any kind of way, which is pretty much anybody, because
Yes.
it's just out there. So for Cecilia, I think this is a tough one, because all the indicators are there that her daughter probably has relapsed, and their relationship has evolved so nicely. They were in a much better place, that now this is tough, for her to have to go to her daughter and approach that.
I thought your advice was really quite wonderful, that you're suggesting, okay, your relationship now is strong enough that be honest with each other, be open with each other. And it's funny, but that didn't really occur to Cecilia as a first impulse.
Yeah. I think it ends up being the other way. It's like, well, we're in a good place now. I don't want to rock the boat.
Don't want to ruffle feathers. Don't.
Yeah. But I mean, I think that it has been tested, and relationships always have to be tested.
Of course.
They're
very organic.
They are, and if you avoid those difficult conversations, it doesn't make the relationship stronger, it makes it weaker.
Yes, in the long run.
In the long run.
And it certainly didn't solve the issue. Cecilia has been saying, or has been hinting at least, that her finances are limited.
Right. Well, she's got to protect herself too. I mean, that's a big part of it is that you can't sacrifice yourself for another person in that kind of way. That doesn't make good sense for any number of different reasons. So.
Well, and also, as again she alluded to in your discussion today, the notion that large sums of money to an offspring or for any other anybody else for that matter can't be given, or you jeopardize your own ability then in the future possibly to go on benevolent care or whatever.
That's correct. That's
and
correct.
she was referring to that as
Yeah,
well. So
but
that's something
good.
we can talk about, I think, more in the future.
Yeah, and it's good, that she was aware of that, because I think some
Yes.
people, I think a lot of people aren't really aware that they can jeopardize their ability to access the benevolent care funds if they give away big
Excessively.
amounts of money. And it's human nature to want to take care of your family for sure,
course.
but you have to protect yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she does seem to be quite aware of that. So
Yeah.
again, that's something we'll probably be touching upon in the future.
Yeah.
Well, I think this was extremely helpful today.
Yeah, we had a lot of different things going on for sure.
These
So
were all three quite different, weren't they?
yeah, good though, good.
Well, I think with that then, we'll stop and we'll hope to see you next month. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.